Oh wow, it works. How's everybody doing? I wonder what the delay is like over here. I think it's probably about a 10-second delay. Maybe even 15-second delay. But you all can hear me, right? Thank you for the 20. Hi Joseph, thank you for the wonderful info you give us in every video. My question is, can I use a mantra or something to help me during tough days with my anxiety? How to remember that I am and I create my own reality. Man, I wish you were at the workshop yesterday. It was just for you, for real. There's a process that I go through to remind myself who I am. As you continue to go in your path or on your path of manifesting, it becomes embedded far more into your awareness or into your consciousness. You become fully identified with that mindset that you're creating things. But when you talk about the mantra, using a mantra, there's a very important reason that I cite in that video. I think I've only created one specific video on that topic, and ultimately the mantra has a specific purpose. It all goes in accordance with or aligns with the true fundamentals or essence of what manifesting is. Really, who you are. Your reality, your outpictured reality, meaning this entire experience that you are in, is your creation. It always has been, it always will be. Whether it was deliberate, accidental, or subconscious, this reality was shaped entirely by you and you alone. The reason I bring that up is because who you are aware of being, meaning your concept of yourself and the concept that you have of the world, is constantly being pushed out. That's your inherent nature, meaning you can't do anything but that. You can't stop yourself from creating. So the objective is to emulate the process that God, the creator, whatever you want to call the creator, became you. So if you inherently, and this is provable, you can test to this by identifying and looking at your reality, that in order for you to be manifested into this world, as everything is manifested, the same process that you undergo to manifest something has to happen. Meaning, the creative power itself had to entirely abandon its concept of self and identify with you. Meaning, the only reason for you to ever be in existence is if God forgot who he was, right? So therefore, you now forgetting who you are before you learned to manifest, and even people who know how to manifest don't really know that, but before realizing that you're God, you're completely asleep in this world. As Neville Goddard says, you're asleep. And we must awaken and realize who we are, which means you don't have to do anything to become God. You just have to realize that you are God. The same way as if you were wearing a mask pretending to be someone else. You wouldn't have to do anything to become yourself. You would just have to stop and realize who you were, and you can just take off that mask. So your true self is a creator. It is the God as described in scripture, meaning you have all power. You can manifest whatever you want, any desire. So in order to create a reality that we want, we have to shed the illusory self, the fake self, meaning who I think I am, Joseph Alai, must be shed temporarily. While shedding that concept of Joseph Alai, I revert back to my true self. That's done specifically and more like accurately or pragmatically or practically when you are in meditation or you are closing your eyes and counting backward. The reason I always give the suggestion to close your eyes, count backward, focus on your breathing, is because you can only focus on one thing at a time. When you're focused on anxiety and fear and the concept of this world, right? A lot of times it's inherent. You are not keeping this world in place on purpose. It's a subconscious tape that keeps playing over and over. But when you revert back into that meditative state, so to speak, or in other words, when your mind is empty, is when you are back within the identification of pure awareness, pure I am. In other words, you're not identified as being yourself. I wouldn't say I am Joseph Alai. I'm just saying I am. I'm not identifying with anything. And once we get to that point, people, gurus that live in India and things like this, Tibet, they try to stay there, right? And that's the closest that we can be to being ourself, our true self. But for the rest of the world who have desire and things of this nature, once we hit that mindset, be it temporarily, be it for 5 minutes, be it for 1 minute while we're closing our eyes and counting backwards and what have you, we then identify with the new self, meaning we imagine the end. We imagine something as if it's real. We identify with a new character. If I was someone who wanted riches or wealth, but at the moment I was someone who was impoverished, I would close my eyes, relax, and then once I'm relaxed, I imagine myself as being someone rich. That's the process that I just described. That whole process of entering back into the true identification as God and then entering the new conception, that's just summed up by saying closing your eyes, relaxing, counting backwards, and then imagining the person you want to be. So in other words, don't expect to manifest what you want if you can't relax for a minute. Or really it's a practice though. If you can't clear your mind, your results will always be not as powerful or not as accurate or not as specific as the person who takes 5 minutes to relax beforehand. So when it comes to the mantra, the reason we give the mantra, or that I've just described the mantra, most people think it's more kind of like an affirmation, which there are obviously analogs, but I think there's a more concise definition here that's been overlooked. And when you analyze it and you realize what the mantra is, to people who do, I don't know, who practice mantras, they're not even realizing what they're doing. Most times, the people who practice mantras are not aware that they're going to create that thing itself. But the whole purpose and point of it, the way that I describe it for manifesting and being such a powerful tool, is the thoughts that are entering into our mind constantly throughout the day, meaning your anxious thoughts, your fearful thoughts, your desirous thoughts, thoughts of what's happening around you, your distractions. These all arise from the illusory self, the fake self. So this is keeping and persisting our reality the way that it is, meaning we remain in the state of mind that we don't wish to have. We remain in the reality that we don't want because we are not identifying with our true self and then taking on a next form. So in an ideal way to manifest the best of your ability, it would be to empty your mind 100% and then embody something. But for 99% of the world, or more, probably 99.999% of the world, it is no simple task to empty the mind. So you leave that for people who, like as I described before, live in the mountains of Tibet meditating for 24 hours a day. So for us, the cheat code to that, the simple way to entering into our true self and therefore being able to manifest what we want, is to repeat a phrase. Repeating a phrase, what it does, as long as you're focused on that phrase, I'm not talking about robotically or just keep repeating it in your mind as you're going throughout your day. The utter focus, it's not difficult to do if you can command your mind to listen. Meaning, you pick a phrase, whatever it is. There's a phrase that's really famous by Neville Goddard. He says, "I am." He doesn't describe to you necessarily why that's a statement that he said. He calls it floating by the end of it, but the point of it is you repeat it until you're no longer thinking about anything else. You can't. As long as you're focused on the phrase that you're saying, you literally cannot be focused on the problem, the emotion, the whatever it is. So you can repeat the phrase over and over, whatever it is. In this case, I mean, a lot of times what I would suggest is you can do a couple things. Whether that means you repeat a phrase that's the desire, like riches or wealth or something like that, or love or romance or something to that effect. That, by definition, when the rest of your thoughts fade away because you're only fixated on that phrase over and over, it literally will then impress your subconscious mind naturally. You will automatically bring it closer and closer into your mind until that's the last thing remaining. It's the next best thing to having your mind empty, is to have it fixated on one thing. That in and of itself will be better and more effective than almost anyone attempting to manifest without doing a similar process. So if you're going to use the mantra, realize what it's doing is bringing you back to your true self and then allowing you to identify with the thing that you're repeating, which ultimately means you will manifest that thing. Because once we detach from our concept of self, meaning once we eliminate the rest of the thoughts within our mind, we then have the freedom to choose who we want to be temporarily. So we clear the mind, and then either with that statement itself, we're automatically becoming it, or we focus on that for a time until we feel that we're not thinking about anything else, and then we choose something that we've already pre-planned. Like we've already written out a scene before, or we have one already in mind that we want to use. And so we repeat that phrase until our mind is solely and completely saturated upon that phrase, and then we jump to that imaginal scene. That is a magic technique. That's a silver bullet. And that is the best way to use a mantra. So you brought in the concept of anxiety and using that to kind of alleviate that in a sense. A mantra forces you into the present moment by nature, by design. You cannot not be present if you have a statement being the sole focus. As long as you still have fears and anxieties, meaning that means that you still have thoughts. And if you still have thoughts, that means you haven't focused on that mantra. So in other words, I guess to summarize it, despite how you feel, everybody, I can say, has the power to focus on one thing. Right? You'll find this in your daily life when you're working on a task that you really enjoy, or when you're watching something on TV, or when you're engaged in a conversation with a friend. You are totally, completely identified in that conversation, with that conversation. There is nothing else existing in the world at that moment to your awareness. And that's exactly what happens when you repeat a phrase of your choosing in your mind. A short, simple, easy, repeatable phrase that takes you no effort to remember and no effort to repeat in your mind. Even if you took 5 or 10 minutes, and actually let me say this, in the beginning, it's not going to be immediate. But the more you do it, it might only take you 2 sessions or 1 session or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 5 sessions for you to so easily identify with that phrase, whatever it is that you're saying, and you can switch them. In other words, it'll be much easier to become present and stop thinking about other things. And when you're there, that is a magic, one-way ticket into you from that point forward, identifying with what you want and therefore manifesting what you want. So yes, you could, if you have anxiety, you could do that. And just remember, the repetition of a phrase must be done consciously, meaning if you're robotically repeating a phrase in your mind, it will have minimal effect in comparison to an actual deliberate attempt to focus on something. So you could repeat affirmations for 20 hours straight, but if you're not fixated and focused on it, it will have as much. In 20 hours, you can probably get as much done as if you took, 10 seconds to deliberately focus on something. The same thing goes with imaginal act, meaning when you're visualizing, right? You could pretend all day, but taking 10 minutes at the end of the day and completely and totally fixating on that imaginal act until there's nothing else in your reality except for that scene, you will do more in those couple of minutes than you will have done in a week of kind of this approach of, pretending all throughout the day, which is half effort in a sense. I mean, the effort's there, but the effect is not. So I hope that makes sense. Does everyone get that? I'm pretty sure other people were asking questions, so let me scroll up and see where I can find this. What would your phrase be for winning $10 million? So if I was going to attempt to win $10 million, which I've thought about doing things like that before, but my heart is not in it. I just don't care enough. But if I were to do it the way that I would go about it, when it comes to things that are very important to me, things that I need, things that I want more than anything else, I will actually do multiple things, use multiple techniques, multiple scenes in order to receive it. So would a phrase be sufficient for winning $10 million? It could. You would have to be very practical and strategic about it. Your intention, the intention meaning what you want to accomplish by imagining something, does not have the same effect as what you actually imagine. So if in my mind or in my heart I know that I want to manifest winning $10 million, but a phrase or something that I just imagine saying, I won. 99% of times you will not win that lottery, but you'll win something, and it's because your intention or the thing that you're setting out to accomplish plays no factor for the most part in what manifests. It's the actual nature of the contents of the imaginal act. So when we talk about what would you do to, what phrase would you use to manifest $10 million, winning $10 million, it would have to be something I strategically plan out with a thesaurus to make sure my words are exact and that it's still short. So I don't think I would just use a mantra. I think I would use a mantra along with some other things. I think I would probably use a mantra to repeat the phrase that maybe I'm successful or I'm a millionaire or something to that effect. And then that way, regardless of any other imaginal act, I will still, no matter what, be a millionaire or I'll be rich. I would probably go with the millionaire thing because it's very much more specific. And then on top of that, I would likely script it out, meaning jot down the desire, which is $10 million, and then I would define an imaginal scene to visualize. I would write it down, so that way you don't have to, it takes you much less time to enter into the state that you want if you already have it pre-planned, in comparison to if you just say, I want $1 million, and close your eyes and then imagine, and then figure out how to imagine it. Because remember, if you're not fully identified with that scene, meaning if you're sitting there closing your eyes and saying to yourself, oh, now I'm going to add this to my scene, or now I want to imagine this, or oh, I have to make sure I'm in first person point of view, you are not in any way, shape, or form imagining the end. You are a strange mix of the imaginer and the imagined, and your results are going to be random. So to take the time to map it out and know and memorize the scene itself, and then close your eyes and imagine, it'll be much easier to hammer out the kinks in the scene, to be in first person, to get your mind to focus, to imagine after the end. And upon that repetition of repeating it over and over again, you'll eventually be able to identify with that scene fully. That's when you'll get it. So I would do, some type of mantra where it would be short and concise. That's what a mantra is. Normally it's one word. It could be something very short, one or two. So if you were going to use some sort of command or an inner conversation, again, that's different. The point is use statements like, I have already received my $10 million lottery winnings. So it's a specific statement, very specific. You might not say it in real life like that in all circumstances, but nevertheless, it leaves no room for the subconscious to fill in the blanks by not knowing what you mean, because the subconscious is non-selective, it's non-logical. It just takes what you hand it through the visualization or through the words themselves and then manifests it. So and perhaps also what I would do is I would list down a few separate statements to, aside the I'm a millionaire, some could be complete longer sentences. Those themselves also, even just by handwriting them down, have the capacity to create. So there are many ways that I would go about doing that. I hope that helps. Why is it that I always come back to your content when life is kicking my ass? And thank you for your content and blogs. Right on, man. It's because that's how it works. That means your true self is looking out for you, right? You'll get there. Just, one thing I have to say about that, which applies to so many people who enter my channel and then leave, or I stop producing content so they drift away, whatever the case is, a lot of times when life is bad, we turn to manifesting. And then when life is good, we walk away. When my life truly began to transform into something that is not even any way, shape, or form resembling the past, was when I stuck with it regardless if life was good or bad. So the beautiful thing about it is it will always be here. You can never not manifest. There have been periods of time where I have burnt myself out, stopped imagining for periods of time, had anxiety. Oh man, I hope I still have the power that I've had before. Do you know how many times I have said that? How many times I've come back? And how many times I've picked up where I left off with no questions asked? It's because we can't walk away from ourself. If I asked you what it would look like to take a step towards yourself, what would that mean? What would that look like to you? And if I said take a step away from yourself, how would you do that? You couldn't, because you yourself is that creative power, are that creative power. You are the operant power. So the longer you stay consistent with actively using manifesting in your life, the more you inundate yourself with it, the easier it becomes to just naturally take on the form of that new identity, which is really what you want, because regardless of what happens, then you will always be creating your desires. You will never have I'm not saying you'll be perfect. Things will always happen. We're in this world of humans where 99.9999 people have no idea that they're creating their chaos and pain. But nevertheless, you will always be the light, and you'll be the solution for so many people, including yourself. So stick with it. Whether you get your specific person, whether you get your $1 million, whatever it is, stay the course and you'll not regret it. But anyway, I'm glad you're back. I am glad you are back. It's good to see you here. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate you reaching out and being truthful and honest. And just, dude, stay with the program. Watch my videos. Get deep into this stuff again. Just do it, bro. Do it. I love you, man. This is another one. Should I feel something when listening to affirmations? Or is it the repetition? Or is the repetition enough? Love you, man. You are awesome. Thank you very much. There's a lot to be said on that subject, but I'll answer as directly as I can. The best course of action always is to take your own internal action. Meaning, there's passive action, which is listening, and then there is non-passive. What's the opposite of passive? Let's look, just so I can get a really clear word. My mind is going blank right now. It's active, really, but is there anything else? Yeah, it's just active or lively or hands-on, diligent, driven. We're gonna go proactive or active. So the point is there's inactive or passive, and then there's active. So passive is allowing things to play in your mind. It's watching the TV. It's those actually are the two things I can think of off the top of my head. It's listening to people, conversations, things like that. And then there are active techniques. Active is actually you're the one playing your own words with your inner voice in your mind, meaning you're actively using your inner voice. So those are the differences. I hope that makes sense. But the reason I bring this up is because you're asking, should I feel something when listening to affirmations? If you have the choice, perform the affirmations yourself with your own inner voice. I alluded to this before. Affirmations, how famous are affirmations? That's one of the first things I believe everyone hears about. In fact, therapists, psychologists also suggest using affirmations. Self-talk, it'll help transform the subconscious. That's why I believe it is very mainstream, and there's absolutely an effect there. Even if you listen to it, you will receive an effect, but you could listen to, say, an hour of affirmations, just passively listening, and then, and this is something that I experienced. When I realized that imagining is not just visualizing, and your imagination is the Christ, your imagination is God in man's form, your awareness, is that anything that I bring into my mind is actually an imaginal act. Thoughts, inner voice, visualizations, feelings, all of that. So when I began to visualize, that's when I realized the power really started to build inside of me. I began to receive things very quickly. It was crazy. But anyway, then I realized, okay, let me start saying the phrases in my mind. I was able to, and then it's not just me. I just figured this out and then began to explain it to people, and others had the exact same experience. You, in your mind, if you say a phrase, an affirmation, I more or less call it a command now, because I find that's the most effective way to get something into the subconscious, is commanding yourself or subconscious to do what you say. So even if you said, I am rich, just say that was what it was, but you said it in a way as if you were say there was someone that you went to high school with who you just didn't get along with. This person was just annoying. and he was always a doubter, someone who just never believed anything anyone said. Miserable. I'm thinking of someone in my mind. It's so funny, but it fits with this idea. And you go to your reunion 5 years later. In that time span, you have become a millionaire. You have gotten married. You have basically have just such an amazing dream life that you've always wanted. Now you go to the reunion, and you're just, you're your same self, though. You yourself didn't change, and neither did that person. So you go, and this person is asking you, how's your life? And then you say modestly, but you still tell the truth. You say, yeah, I'm a millionaire. I started a business. I am married. And it's as if that person is saying, you're full of it. You're lying, right? How would you respond if you cared enough to convince that person, right? It would be a command. I am rich. So, but I'm not saying it with the enthusiasm right now on camera that I would be saying if in real life, if I was talking to that person, right? I would be telling this person, this is what it is. One command like that in my mind, telling myself what I need to know, like I am rich, but loud and clear and just realistic. You will get an emotional reaction out of it. In fact, that's what you're attempting to do. Convince with a statement something. So anyway, I know I've just gone slightly off a tangent, but for that explanation, or as an explanation, the whole point is if you command once in that nature, with that commanding voice inside your mind, you will have more of an effect than listening to affirmations until, I don't know, anything, till the cows come home. So the feeling, there's a short, you can use other means to this though. In fact, if you memorize the affirmations that you're listening to, that literally involves you tracing it with your inner voice. So you're tracing it now with your inner voice, which then therefore still has a powerful effect, if that makes sense. Again, you're actively using your imagination versus passively. I normally will use a passive imaginal act, such as an affirmation, going to sleep, or if there's literally some reason why I can't focus 100%. But even so, I normally don't do that. I normally save my imaginal acts for the times when I have the time to do this. So ultimately, do you need feeling to manifest? No, but you need to have the best course of action is to have your imagination or your inner voice actually being utilized versus just passively, right? I mean, you can manifest by hearing things. We manifest by watching things. I remember once I made a video because I was watching the TV show The Punisher, and then the next day I saw 2 fist fights, which was totally just entirely out of there's nothing in my reality that I'm never in a place where I would see that. I'm never in a situation. I don't go to bars, I don't go to clubs, I don't go to parties and stuff like that. Like none of that. Or the one time I was watching the commercial on TV in Southern California, there were these commercials that they were trying to really push Obamacare. And so there would be commercials of people, because I guess they needed people in order for the program to work. That's how it works. They put in, and then it takes care of people who can't pay and stuff like that. So what they began to do is show these commercials. I'll just tell you the one specifically. I remember exactly where I was when I was watching it. I was back at my other apartment, and I had this big TV on the wall, and I was watching on TV, and it shows this person getting out of a car holding their phone. No. They weren't getting out of their car. That was my part. They were walking, looking at their phone, and then they fell. No, it was in first-person point of view, meaning the camera was like on someone's head while it was being filmed, and it showed them as if it was realistic. And this person's looking at their phone, and then all of a sudden they fall, and then it shows them a second later in the hospital they broke their wrist or something. But I know they broke their wrist. So it wasn't the next day. I get out of my Uber, I have my phone in my hand, and then all of a sudden I fall, Luckily, I didn't break my wrist, but I sprained my wrist. It was in the exact image that I saw on the TV. So, do passive imaginal acts work? They will. But the effects of using using an imaginal act yourself, visualizing, using inner speech, inner dialogue, a command, something to that effect, will just blow that out of the water by far. You will just, the results are just unmatched, right? And this is through thousands of experiments, and not only that, but individuals having worked with and getting their results as well. So I hope that's helpful for you. I did want to finish off by saying this because I kind of touched upon it and then let it go. Feeling is not essential itself, but it is essential to impress your subconscious mind with something imaginal. The more imaginal faculties you invoke, such as your senses, thought, emotion, the more realistic a scene is, if you think about it. Another way to think about it is take some time throughout the day and stop or set an alarm and ask yourself, what were you just aware of? So if you were in a conversation with someone and then your alarm sounds and then you think, what was my reality just consistent of? You'll realize that you weren't focused on most sensations, meaning the rest of your reality kind of fades away and this one person and the words become the sole focus of your reality. So at that moment, you're not touching, like you're not recognizing anything you're touching, you're not recognizing anything you're smelling. Your sole focus is only probably two senses, sight and hearing and thought. So three, right? Hearing and thought are two separate things. And so those are the only aspects of your reality at that point in time that are getting impressed. And that is sufficient to create a similar outcome. Meaning, what would manifest though if we only used a couple senses? So we want to make sure we're impressing the senses that have the most impact, that would be most accurate is a better way to describe it. So if what's most important is what I'm saying, meaning I just won $1 million, I just got married to so-and-so, then that's going to be really the only one that matters more than anything else, right? So, but the rest of those senses will be filled in. The blanks will be filled in by the subconscious and by God, meaning that outcome will happen, but it could happen anywhere, any place, any time. You could be talking to anyone. Now, instead, if you used, or it could also be in any style. So if I said I got married to such and such, right? When it manifests, if I didn't use any emotion, then it could actually be in a negative connotation, like, yeah, I got married to such and such, as if you're miserable. But the more accurate you make it, meaning if you use, say, I'm married to such and such, and then you feel joy at the same time, that's because in real life you would be feeling joy if you told such and such that you got married to this person. So, all in all, it's not essential to use emotion, but it's essential for you to have an accurate representation of reality. That's what you imagine. I hope that makes sense to you. OS Car or Oscar. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Just bear with me, guys. I'm just trying to set up my, I'm trying to set up this to make sure it's all gonna work. So let's go ahead and enable the video again, and hopefully within a few seconds this will go up. It should, maybe the quality will go down a little bit. But with that said, it's better than nothing. I'm trying to figure out how to turn down my quality. It was doing so well. I was so excited that this was working properly. Alright, so let me do, I'm going to start answering these as fast as I can to try to make sure that I get this done, okay? I want to make sure I answer as many questions as we possibly can in this allotted time, okay? I follow you for years. How do you regularly manifest 30 lucid dreams a month? And to be in your VIP group, I really want to manifest that. That's funny. Oscar or OS Car, however you say this YouTube name, what currency is that? I've never seen that currency before, at least from what I think. Israeli shekel. Huh. A shekel. Awesome. 1790. That's just so cool, man. Thank you so much. Okay, so anyway, the way to be consistent in an imaginal act is, it's not as simple as imagining once, right? The best way to go about this would be to, you want to overhaul your whole concept of sleep and dreams and whatever. So ultimately what that means is, like, the way I would go about doing this, so I did something relatively similar to this. I'm a huge fan of mystical experiences. I love receiving prophecy, premonitions. It's insane. Coming from the reason I love it is because coming from the point of view of an earthly person with zero interest, zero belief in anything mystical, literally none. I thought psychics were fake. I thought premonitions were not real. I thought it was all a ploy to get money. And when I started receiving them on accident, they just started happening as a result of me visualizing. It's an addiction. It's an addiction. There's nothing like receiving information that is prophetic. Nothing. Zero. So anyway, my whole thing was I wanted to manifest those consistently. Now, the way I did that was I started writing it down. I took my little manifesting journal, or one of the dozens that are now completely filled, and I began to brainstorm various statements as if I was just jotting down the way my life is. Things to the effect of, I always have mystical experiences, I always have premonitions when I sleep, in as many different ways as I could, in as many different facets or angles of my life. Mystical experiences come easily. It is natural for me to have mystical experiences. It's commonplace for me to have mystical experiences. So writing down sort of the way people, a normal or other manifestor would describe it, it's almost like you're writing down affirmations, except your point is not to be repeating these. The point is you write down as many as you can which you think would help facilitate you in the receiving of your lucid dreams. I always lucid dream. I love talking to people about my lucid dreams. My lucid dreams always are fun for me. I always remember my lucid dreams. I lucid dream every single night. I have multiple lucid dreams every single night. I have journals filled with my lucid dreams. Every time I wake up after a lucid dream, I am very excited and energized. So that last statement was a personal experience, because once I started having mystical experiences, they progressed. So I'll tell you this right now. When you have a lucid dream, if when you wake up, you praise yourself for it, you take a minute to be grateful for it, to share the excitement with yourself. You could even say, oh, thank you, God, thank you, higher self, thank you, subconscious. The reason you do this is because letting your true self know that you're excited about something, or in other words, even just reacting to something, it'll happen again. Your subconscious automatically sees that as that was good, I'm going to make it happen again. This is why people who write down their dreams keep having dreams. And so for me, what happened with the mystical experience is the same thing that happened to me with writing down my dreams. Is it would exhaust me because I would have these very strange, sometimes really frightening, because they're unexpected, mystical experiences, and when I would wake up from it, be it at that night or whatever, I would be upset and frustrated and not angry but fearful. So these negative thoughts, and then, or I would deliberately push it in the back of my mind, kind of giving the instruction that I don't even want to think about this. The moment you do that, let me put it this way, the moment I do that, they start to slow or stop completely. And this has happened with dreams, I mean, probably 15 different times. I always get this motivation, like, yes, I'm going to start writing down my dreams and interpreting them and this and that. And then after day 3, when I wake up and I'm like, I'm too tired to write any of this stuff down, they stop happening. So being consistent. And then another thing I would do, this goes for anything. It doesn't even just have to do with doing lucid dreams or mystical experiences. This is consistency in anything you want to change in your life that you want to stay. After that, I would also imagine some sort of visual scene which implies you are who you say you are, who you want to be. So be it you talk to a trusted friend explaining how every night I have a lucid dream, or I love the fact that every night I have lucid dreams, or people know me as the person who lucid dreams every night. You just talk back and forth with your trusted friend, and then your trusted friend, or maybe they'll say to you, are you still having lucid dreams every night? And then you could respond and say, yes, every night, night after night, for as long as I can remember now. These are some of the things I would do. This is the most effective way. You're hitting multiple angles of the subconscious. With that, you're also changing beliefs, and you're impressing your subconscious mind with a specific, deliberate action by visualizing. And that's how it will work. And then also react positively when you experience it. Otherwise, you'll stop experiencing it sometimes. Most of the time. I hope that's clear for you. But how do we become God? Loose attachment. Or relax or meditate, but still remember to affirm what we desire in that space. I find myself thinking of what I desire, therefore I don't let go. Okay. Your subconscious will give you, it will remind you. I will bet you that $10 that you donated to me, that if you deliberately take the risk of not remembering it on purpose while you're doing this practice, that you will, as soon as you stop, it will pop right back into your mind. So one trick is that the subconscious will do anything that you ask. If you command your subconscious to wake you up at 7:53 and 17 seconds in the morning, it will literally do that. And then you'll ask yourself, well, how did it know? I don't even know. It knows because it's God. So anyway, what I do and what I've done, and this is the practice that I do, is I tell myself, I give myself a command every time I become present with the intention to manifest. I remember this thing. Or after I meditate for 5 minutes when I stop, I remember this. So you say it in the tense as if it's already true and as if it's ongoing. I remember what to imagine after I stop meditating, right? And then boom, you literally, in doing that, what you're doing is actually multiple things. You are learning what you're actually capable of doing, meaning you're learning that you don't have to remember things consciously, that your subconscious will remember for you. Literally, I have a whole video on it. I think most people kind of disregard this, and they say, because this is, I can only tell you the attitude that I had. If someone had told me that, I would have thought, well, no, it's never happened to me before, so that's nonsense. Even though I'd never deliberately attempted to do it before. The way I discovered that, which is being able to command your subconscious to do anything for you, like for instance, if I have a headache, I will literally say, I don't have a headache, but I'll say it in a different way, like, I feel great, my head feels great. Your subconscious will take away your headache, literally. If you have swelling, my arm isn't swelling. If you want to wake up at this time, you'll wake up at this time. If you want to remember to submit the assignment by such and such, you can do whatever you want, and what will happen is amazing. Something will trigger you to go home at that time, like, oh man, I forgot my wallet at home. And the moment you go home, you'll remember, oh my God, I have to submit the assignment, and you'll look at the clock on the microwave, and it'll say 1 minute before. I say that because that happens to me all the time, literally. Your subconscious gives you instructions to force you to do things to complete your own manifestations in the exact way I just described. You won't even realize it, but it will do whatever it needs to do. And it doesn't even just mean internal, right? Because in doing this, you'll also learn that your subconscious controls the external too. Someone will call you and tell you to go to this place, and when you get there, you'll find the $100 on the ground that you imagined that you would find. In other words, just tell your subconscious what to do, and it will do it. And you'll learn. This is something you can do all the time. This is not even something that you have to sit down, close your eyes, imagine. For me, and this always has been like this, I just command it. Sometimes I'll find that I didn't do it the right way, but you'll find your groove. You just have to practice. So set into motion. Every time I have the intention to imagine something, I get in the state, and then I remember exactly what to imagine. Or every time I meditate, I automatically only focus on meditating, and then after, I automatically and only focus on what I need to manifest. So I hope that makes sense to you. I was wondering if you've ever felt like you've landed in a different dimension. I have new memories and have manifested huge things. It scared me. There have been circumstances where I feel like things have changed. The thing, however, is that when this happens to me, because your consciousness is the one who is creating everything, meaning you're not entering into anything external. There's not some dimension that's like outside of you that you're going into. All of eternity exists within your consciousness, literally. So a dimension swapping would be more or less something internal. And since it's according to you, you would only be able to experience what you could expect or be aware of or not be aware of. So it would always be placed in a situation where you'd almost be confused. You would be very speculative, like, did this change? But you won't be able to fully know, because the moment you know something, you snap it into place and you fixate it there, or you fix it there rather. So it's only when it's ambiguous do you allow the power for things to be dynamic and change, if that makes sense. All right, let's see what we got. How would I imagine being confident? I think based on all of the other aspects that I just described, all the different techniques and what have you, I think I probably already gave the answer, but just to be clear cut, the way that I would imagine confidence is a way that I have imagined confidence. And it's out, so there's a couple roads you could take. In fact, there are a couple roads you should take, different roads. One of the roads would be go down the roads of belief systems, self-image, self-concept, assumptions, which means there's a reason if you're not confident, there's a reason you're not. Events happen, conclusions happen. The workshop yesterday, in my VIP program, I do live workshops, and in that in yesterday's workshop was absolutely perfect for this question, which was the whole topic was about how to shift your self-image. So the self-image is not only what's internal, right? Because if my image of myself is confident, if I believe I'm confident, but if I also believe that I'm shy around people, what will happen? Those two can exist simultaneously. They can. CAN. So the solution would be, well, first to realize too, the majority of our reality, even today in our, most of us adult selves, some of us are not adults yet, but nevertheless, everyone here, the overwhelming majority of your reality, in fact, almost all of it, is a creation of someone who's less than 7 years old. It's like handing a crayon to your child or your cousin or your brother or whatever, the person who's 4 years old, and giving them permission to create your life. Would you do that? Would you give a crayon to someone who's 4 years old, even max? We'll go with the upper edge of that, 7 years old. Would you hand a crayon to a 7-year-old and say, I give you permission to create every aspect of my life? Whatever you write down here, whatever you draw, whatever you think, will force my reality into those guidelines, into those constraints. Anyone in their right mind would say, no way in hell. Yet that's our reality. Our minds are almost all subconscious up until the age of 7. This is evident when we experience certain patterns in our lives that we don't even know how we've created them. If we take the assumption that we create everything in our world, which we do, but if you take that assumption from the beginning and then ask yourself, what part of me created this? A large part of your reality you'll be able to undetect. It'll be undetectable. But you have to realize not everything is actually based on events. Obviously, if you have a parent who is a violent alcoholic, that's a very clear-cut, obvious reason why someone grows into a person who's either an alcoholic themselves, who's violent themselves, or has para-alcoholic tendencies, meaning they're codependent or really sensitive or really afraid all the time, or, any of those things, or they have attachment issues. That's an obvious explanation as to why we're creating this, because that obviously went into our subconscious. It could also do with confidence. If someone always told you that you're worthless, that you're not good at this, again, it could be a very clear indicator as to why we're not confident, why we're shy, why we always fail, why we always get into trouble, because my father says, you're no good. Whatever it is, right? I hope you get my point, what I'm saying here. Those specifically impress your subconscious mind and become the foundation for a large majority of your life. Now, if, say, there were constraints added, such as you are a loser at math, let's just say, and if you're say you're the brightest person, and say, however, someone told you, or, someone told you you're not good at math, you suck at math, you're a loser at math, just make it a little more funny. But what would happen is you could, therefore, the rest of the traits of your reality of intelligence would be variable. You would set them through your own mindset, through what you yourself set them. But that math one, there's no doubt you will be horrible at it until you deliberately change it. Most of the time, we don't remember these things. A lot of the times we do, though. And then ultimately we ask the question, well, what about the things that I don't remember? What about the things that I have never had a problem with? What if my parents were nothing but loving? I lived in a mansion. I had all love 24/7. How did I become a loser? How did I become homeless? How did I become a person who can't keep a job when every single person in my life? How did I be the one who has no confidence when I was confident, younger, and everyone in my family is confident and everyone always built me up. Why was I not confident? Why am I not confident? And the reason is, A, because yes, something could have happened later on, but again, you could remember that. More or less, a very large majority of our beliefs are created through our own perception. Our perception, not the events. Our conclusion, not the event itself. In other words, even though you may have always been built up, you're a great person, you're so amazing, you're so confident. If in your mind you ever made the conclusion, you could have made your own conclusion. You could have talked to someone once, a girl or a guy that you liked, and stuttered or something, and it was just an accident. You could have had food in your mouth, anything. And then they looked at you funny, and you may have made the internal conclusion that you are not confident. That is how easy it is before the age of 7 to create a reality like that. Like in my experience, my parents were loving enough. No one's perfect. But I always had this internal thought that I was unimportant. And it wasn't until I started to figure out, like, that was my own conclusion. That wasn't reality. But yet that transformed and shaped my life in a way that was just horrible. It brought on so many problems I never thought I would be able to solve it. So ultimately, I know that was long-winded, but the conclusion is we need to replace and change that belief. Because that belief, if it's a belief, it will impact anything in my life having to do with confidence. That means it could be one thing, it could be 1,000 things. It could be in certain situations, it could be not. It could be public, right? Say you have a belief that in public you're not confident, but when you're with people you're very confident. Or in public, in front of groups of people, you are confident, but one-on-one with someone that you have romantic interest in, you shut down and become not confident. What will happen is every scenario that fits those constraints, those guidelines, will be forced to conform with what you believe, what your conclusion is, what your expectation is, what your assumption is. So it's not as easy as just to say sometimes, to imagine that I'm confident, because if you have all these specific aspects of your life that have been impacted by it, and it might not even be confident. It might just be, I feel not confident, but yet you are. There's so many different ways. So my whole point is this. You want to begin to reflect and find patterns in your life that fit the bill related to confidence and summarize them, right? You generalize them, such as every time I talk to a girl, I become not confident. Or every time I talk in front of people, I'm not confident, or I am not confident. So you can be general and with constraints or clauses, right? I am confident, so I'm not confident here. People don't like me. Whatever you feel contributes, that plays in your mind, that you find is a pattern, right? Those are, in most cases, those are the actual assumptions. So just remember, this reality reflects the subconscious. So we look at what's reality, and then we estimate then what's subconscious. So if in reality I'm not confident, or if in reality every time I go to talk to someone that I don't know, I shut down and I'm shy and I run away. So that's when I state, okay, this probably has to do with confidence, but I don't want to limit myself to that. So let's look at the experiences themselves and summarize as many things as we know about those circumstances. Every time I do this, I feel this way. Every time I go to this place, people look at me this way. Every time I'm about to do this, I do this instead. So you just summarize as many things as you can in your mind, right? Or jot down a very small reminder of what that is. So it could be public or girls or whatever. And then from there, you find opposing statements, opposite. Most of the time, or a lot of times, there's no direct one-to-one statement A lot of times it might take 2 or 3 to fully negate that. So if one is like, I'm not confident, that's the bad one. The good one that you want is to be, and that's kind of, just hear me out. It might have to be, I am confident, but then it also probably has to be, I'm confident in social situations, or I'm confident in this situation. So it might take more than one statement on the positive end to replace a negative. But the point is, you want to come up with as many negative patterns that you can identify, that you can summarize as what's a common denominator between all these events, right? So you take the event itself, instead of just automatically concluding that it's confidence, look at the event and derive the exact nature of what's happening, right? So instead of just saying, I'm not confident, you could be more specific. Every time I'm at work, I have trouble looking my boss in the eyes, which means I have trouble looking at people in the eyes. So that's a negative statement, or 2 negative statements. And then you would counter it with, I easily look people in the eye. I feel comfortable looking people in the eye. People feel comfortable talking to me. People see me as confident. So that's what I'm talking about here. Once you create those statements, you imagine them. You imagine a conversation between you and a friend, or you affirm it loud and clear in your mind. The imaginal act with a friend, the conversation, is so effective. It is insane. Have them compliment you on the trait that you're looking to have, and then you respond affirming it. So they'll tell you, wow, you are great, you are so confident with everyone. And then you would respond and say, I know I am so confident, I love being confident. That's it. Repeat that over and over until that saturates your mind. Then move on to the next statement. You look people in the eyes awesomely. It's like you have a special skill looking people in the eyes. And then you would reiterate, I know, and I'm super comfortable doing it too. You do that over and over. Make sure you imagine the same conversation on repeat during one session until you feel it saturated in your mind. And then move on to the next, to the next, to the next. And if you feel like you have too many written down, then pick the ones that resonate most. The other ones that you wrote down are still going to have impressed your subconscious mind, because writing things down also impresses the subconscious mind. I hope that makes sense. The state impressed is like gazing into a blue sky, clear of any clouds of uncertainty. Is faith an emotion of non-obsessive certainty? I really like, as you're saying, the best way. I am certain, I've seen you before, so I am certain you have watched my videos on me describing faith. And if you have not, please watch those videos. They are not just random videos. They are kind of shocking revelations to the mistranslations of the word faith in our modern life, in the modern day of the world, meaning over the last couple thousand years too, like 1,000 or 2,000 years. Faith, as used, related to manifestation or prayer, actually coincides with the word imagining. So the proper definition of the word faith would go along the lines with imagining as if it's happening right now, with all features of your experience in reality. Anything you would experience in reality as it relates to this manifestation, your interaction with the person who's just given you your promotion, extract as many details, accurate details, related to your perception, what you're seeing, what you're thinking, what you're experiencing, what you're focused on most, what you're not focused on. Faith is almost a constraint of imagining. You imagine, which everyone knows what that is, but then faith is related to imagining the end with all the tones of reality as if it's real, including what you're thinking, feeling, all of that. So it does in fact when you look at it, you can see how it very much relates closely to the statement you've given. It could almost be interchangeable, which is why in the Bible people take faith as believing something is going to happen, in a sense, knowing something, certainty of a thing. That's how it's translated and interpreted. But interestingly enough, if you take out that definition and replace it with every realistic feature, it's like a certainty in experience, knowing the reality. So in other words, is that not close to what you're saying? But it is just in more specific and plain English. It's faith is done when you're imagining. It's a constraint to imagining. Faith is imagining the end in first person point of view. That's faith. I hope that's clear. So in other words, where people get messed up and what has ruined many lives, including mine for a long time, is this idea, oh my God, do I believe? Am I having faith? It says I'm supposed to have faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God, it says in the Bible. Right? But it also says have the faith of God. But yet it says God doesn't need faith. So how are you supposed to have the faith of God if God doesn't have faith? God doesn't need faith. There's nothing to do with that. God just creates. Everything is God. God created everything. The reason I'm delving into that is to give you the more irrefutable proof of what I'm talking about. And ultimately, God says, that's God's action to create. It means logos, which is essentially the awareness of. That's what faith is. Use the imagining of God. It says have the faith of God. Have the imagining of God. Imagine like God. Have the creative power, imagining something as if it's real, of God. In thought. It's almost as if when in your mind you fully take on the form of that new character, of fully identifying with it, thinking from it, I always feel like I have to very much clarify that statement, which is kind of overlooked in most cases, or taken for granted or disregarded. Thinking from the scene is best described by giving you the contrast. I'll give you what not thinking from the scene is. Close your eyes. Just pretend I'm closing my eyes right now. Actually, no. Pretend this is all what I'm imagining. This is my imaginal scene right now. And I am in another dimension, sitting on a chair, closing my eyes. And this is what's all playing into my imagination right now. So I'll give you an example of what isn't. So just to be clear, I'll tell you when I'm using the thoughts of the person sitting in the chair. And then if the character, meaning myself, my imagined self, is speaking. Okay? So, again, what is the opposite of faith? What is the opposite of faith? It is incorrect thinking while imagining, realistically. So if, as sitting in a chair on the beach, I'm imagining this thing right here, right? Obviously I'm not on a beach, I'm in a chair somewhere in another reality. And if in my mind, in the chair's mind, the person in the chair's mind, I'm thinking, oh, I need to imagine this now. Okay, again, this is the thought, right? Not what the character that I'm creating is speaking. So, oh man, I have to add a computer in front of me. Or I have to, okay, yeah, this is good. Now let me make sure I'm in first person. Right. Okay. Okay, let's read the email. Dear Joseph, yeah, let me add this. Dear Joseph, you won the lottery. Congratulations. Okay, let me add feeling now, and let me start celebrating. Oh my God, I won the lottery. Okay, now repeat that a few times. Okay. Oh my God, I won the lottery. Oh my God, I won the lottery. Okay, repeat it one more time. Oh my God, I won the lottery. Okay, now think of how grateful you are. Oh my God. Now this is the imagined mind. Oh my God, I'm so grateful. Right? So that is how I used to imagine. Still being directed by the director, meaning I'm sitting now snap back to the person who's actually imagining. So this is me. Now, it's like if I am narrating what I need to do through the scene, then I am not in first person point of view at all, right? If I am still telling myself what to do, to imagine this, to enter back into first person, to feel this, to say this in my imaginal act, none of that is actually imagining in first person point of view whatsoever. There is no presence, there's none of that, right? And so, because it's a very strange blend between the director and the imagined. In fact, you're way more identified with a person imagining than you are with the imagined. So, also, in other words, it's as if you're swapping back and forth from the imaginer and the imagined. The imaginer, the imagined, the imaginer, imagined. And what do you need to do in order to manifest what you want? You have to fully identify with the imaginal scene. You have to become present. You have to imagine something over and over again until naturalness and tones of reality. Even if, snap back, this is the imagined person again. Right now, I am the person in the scene. Okay? Wow, this is so real. Say I'm narrating. The person imagining is narrating. Wow, I'm doing such a good job at imagining. This is all super realistic and crisp, right? Okay, snap back now. Even if things are so vivid in the way that they look, in the way that you feel, in the things that you touch, it doesn't matter because you're not present. You're not present. You need to enter into a state conducive to impressing the subconscious mind, you see? So what that means is you need to have pre-planned, there's a few steps that will fix it, and then I'll give you the full, complete example. There's a few steps that you want to do. First is you want to have your scene entirely memorized, right? I'm talking about the simplest things you can do instead of being lazy. This is what I used to do, really before I knew. But then even when I knew, I was too lazy to do it for a while, and then once I made it a habit, I was on fire. So, especially if you're stuck, this is the right way. Outline a scene, map it out, take a journal, write it on a piece of paper, type it up, whatever you want to do, outline it. You want to ask yourself, emulating experience, what's the end result, and then where would I be, what would I be doing, what could I be saying, what could I be thinking, what could I be feeling, what could I be hearing, all of that stuff, who would I be with, how are they acting, what would I have around me, what would have changed. Just do a quick jot. You don't need to be extremely thorough, although the more thorough you'll be, the more effective it will be, ultimately. So now you've got this little scene, and now what you need to remember is this is supposed to emulate reality, which means you're only really going to be focused most accurately on one or two things. You'll probably, I don't know, it could be anything. If you wanted to go to a concert, then you'll probably be more focused on sight and hearing, right, and thought. If you want to manifest $1 million, you'd probably be more focused on inner speech and speaking out loud and probably looking at the screen. The rest of the things wouldn't matter. You wouldn't care where you were, versus the concert you would. So think in those terms. Think of your constraints of imagining now. So I would be focused on this thing, I would be saying this thing, the rest of it I wouldn't care as much about. So now you had the full scene, then you make the constraints and add it to a more realistic, experiential scene. Let me write this down. I think I have to make a video too about this, right? Don't you agree? So map scene, experiential scene with constraints for imagining. Then you want to kind of narrow down. This is really, phase 2 of the experiential part is kind of then making sure you're accurate enough, right? So upon this experiential scene is you have to make sure you understand that it's not intention that creates, it's the actual content of your imagination. So if you're attempting to manifest going to a Radiohead concert, right, and there's tickets going to be on sale soon, and you want to manifest going there, and you know they sell out within 0.3 seconds, and then you close your eyes and you decide, okay, I'm going to imagine that I won the Radiohead tickets, and then you ended up imagining, you know, for me, maybe calling my brother and saying, dude, I won the tickets, I won the tickets, I won the tickets, and repeated that over and over. The problem there is that even though I intended to win the Radiohead tickets, there was zero specification to the subconscious, and the subconscious takes things literally. It does not use logic, right? It's not conscious. It doesn't have those types of features to it. So when it manifests, I won the tickets, or I got the tickets, whatever it is, it could be any tickets that you're talking about having got or having won. So you want to make sure in this phase of experiential constraints, I suppose, it would be making sure it's specific enough. So if instead I said, I won us Radiohead tickets for May 1st. I won us, or even better, in case there's 3 dates, I would just say, I won us Radiohead tickets. Actually, what would be really better is just to say, oh man, it was awesome that we won those tickets to Radiohead, right? That would be the best way, because that's before the end. I got caught off track thinking about aspects. But anyway, the point is, once you do that, you also want to make sure it's very short, meaning memorizable, making it 10 seconds if you can do it, right? Remember, your subconscious accepts bite-sized pieces of information, okay? Bite-sized pieces of information. Think attention span. So whatever you can focus on and repeat is going to impress. If you make your scene even 30 seconds long, it's much less likely for the whole thing to enter into it. And after that, it just decreases rapidly. So short and concise. Find the shortest way that you can represent the scene imaginally and choose that, or variations, multiple variations of that. That's the key. Don't make it shorter than has to be experienced. You can't cut corners and be ambiguous, but you want to make it as short as you possibly can. This is why it takes time to do this. This is why it should be mapped out. There are constraints to be added that just taking a piece of paper and doing it makes it so easy, but if you don't, it's very difficult to do this. And then once you have it out, you then memorize it to the best of your ability. It shouldn't be hard if it's very simple. So an example, say it was a radio, say the desire, we'll stick with the Radiohead tickets desire Radiohead tickets. From there, so that's the desire. Now I want to map the scene after the end. So I'm brainstorming and saying, okay, well, what would be a scene after the end? Okay, a scene after the end could be like, I'm with my brother. Let's see, scene. I'm with my brother. We're talking about how amazing the Radiohead concert that we went to was. And then, maybe because my brother lives in New Jersey, my mom lives in South Carolina, maybe I could say we're in New Jersey. We'll just say that's where the concert was. So it's after the concert, we're in New Jersey. And then I would say, okay, it's nighttime, right? It's nighttime. And then after that, I would say my brother also said something about how he's so happy we won the tickets. I keep switching between winning and getting, but you get the point. We'll stick with winning. And let me think if there's anything else that would be relative. Oh yeah, we could be like, my ears are kind of ringing, or deafened, right? because I was so close and up to the speakers, right? Maybe that's another desire. Desire, Radiohead tickets, front row, or no, backstage. And then, maybe another aspect that I want to keep in mind, backstage, met Tom York, we'll say. That's the lead singer of Radiohead. So the desire, real clear cut, is Radiohead tickets, backstage, met Tom York. Okay. So the scene of imagining would be, keep in mind too, we'll go over that in another phase. So the scene, I'm with my brother, we're talking about how amazing the Radiohead concert that we went to was. We're in New Jersey, it's nighttime, my brother said the same thing, my ears are ringing. The vibe is that we actually just left the venue. So this is the outline, the basic outline. This is not the specific outline. This is not what I'm going to imagine exactly, but it's important to specify aspects that are vital. If you overlook or sidestep this step, you will leave out critical information. Because what's the criteria? Imagine after the end, that's absolutely critical. First person point of view, absolutely critical. Thinking from the end, meaning not from the directed, not from the director, from the directed. Anyway, so now we have that. Then let's very quickly say, we need to make sure this is experiential and has constraints. So we will say, make sure it's accurate. We'll turn this into an inner conversation. What you want to ask yourself really, if this was all happening, analyze what you believe your actual experience would be like. So what we will say, I would be focused on my brother's face and him speaking. And we could say, I would also have the vibe or ambiance of a night out when you're tired after having a great night, right? Everyone knows that. And then I would probably say what would be the sole focus would be just two statements, right? Notice how I'm not focused on anything else. Notice how it doesn't matter about where exactly I am, right? Because that I wouldn't be thinking about that at the exact moment I'm speaking to my brother about enjoying watching that show, that concert. So we would say, James, that's my brother's name, says to me, dude, how amazing was it that we just met Tom York backstage at a Radiohead concert. Right? Is that not a clear-cut, defined statement leaving out, there's no ambiguity, there's no question as to what my brother's talking about, right? And in fact, we could even say this, dude, Joe, brother, right? Something to make it just absolutely clear-cut, right? So I'd be focused on my brother's face and him speaking. Ambience of darkness, but I'll also say about the ambience, I'll say, let's go like this. Characters, I would say, I'll outline it into different statements, which are the characters, then I'll say ambience, and then I'll say specifics of manifestation. Those would be really topics to break it up into, right? So normally I just write this down on a piece of paper without outlining these little categories, but I think going through, at least explaining it to you, will really help describe this simple process that has a night and day effect on your manifestation. He says to me, dude, Joe, brother, how amazing it is that we just met Tom York backstage at a Radiohead concert. And then I would probably say to him, I know. I know I'm so amazed at the fact that we won Radiohead backstage tickets and that we just met Tom York. So once I have it outlined, I memorize it. And then, since I memorized it, right, there's one thing I missed here that is of critical importance. Normally, this is where everyone stops, right? But I missed this on purpose to see if you recognized anything maybe that I missed that was another vital aspect of importance. So here, as long as I have first person, which we just insinuate here because we're saying I, right? Insinuate looking through my own eyes, right? And then we're doing it after the end. Obviously, the concept's already ended. But what about thinking from the scene? What about thinking from the scene? Thinking from the scene means my thoughts must be emulating what I would actually be thinking. So remember before when I described to you what I was thinking from the director, like, oh, I have to add this here, and oh, this is cool. Let me start saying this now, right? We need to keep imagining with the aim at getting past that point. You will experience that style of manifesting, visualizing, every time you close your eyes to visualize. Meaning, there's always a process to undergo. It is very likely to immediately enter into the imaginal scene, the end result. In other words, the best way to do this would be memorize it and then have your lines, you repeat it enough until your inner thoughts have no interjection or narration from the director, right? The director being the person sitting in the chair imagining, the actor being the imagined, the after the end, the scene of who you will become, right? So we'll say then, therefore, it'll go like this. Closing my eyes is the director, right? Now this me right here is the actor. Anytime I use this voice, it's the director. How about that? And anytime I talk like normal, it's the actor. So at first, I close my eyes, right? I close my eyes, okay. I've done all this work. I've written down all this stuff. I've, made sure I've imagined the end. I have made sure my intention was clear cut during the imaginal act that I just wrote down. I made sure the words were specific. I made sure it was short and concise and memorable. I wrote that down and then I memorized it, okay? Now I'm sitting in the chair. So I'm sitting in the chair and I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to imagine right now. Okay, boom. So I close my eyes. Now this is really emulating what should be happening. Remember, this is still just me imagining. So I'll say to myself, okay, it's time to bring the scene up. And usually I'll relax first, count backward, all these things. But then I'll say, okay, let me, all right, I'm going to bring forth like a Philadelphia-like setting, something similar, something at night, something, an ambiance. And so in the dream, it'll, it's going to, not in the dream, in the imaginal act, I'll start to populate the scene. But remember, I wrote down like it's not important where it is, so let me just bring it forward. Okay, now let me bring forth the actor. Okay, so the actor's here. I open my eyes. Now I'm in like a Philadelphia style setting. We still have the director narrating. Okay, let's add brother James. Okay, James is there. Okay, I'll just, vaguely, James is just wearing a black t-shirt, something that he usually always wears. I don't care what I'm wearing because I'm not looking at myself. Okay, we're just walking, and then James turns to me as we're walking, or we're already mid-discussion, but that doesn't matter because this is written down, kind of, and James just says, pretend I remembered specifically already. I wrote it down and remembered. Dude, isn't it amazing that, how amazing was it that we just met Tom York back at a Radiohead concert? So I'm imagining that shouldn't have been muffled, but I'm imagining my brother then says that to me, right? And then, okay, now let me respond. I'm amazed at the fact we won tickets to Radiohead and met Tom York backstage. Okay, that was good. Now let's repeat it. Dude, how amazing it was that we just met Tom York backstage. I know. All right, let's jump into it. I know. I'm so amazed at the fact that we met him backstage. So even realize that it's a little choppy, right? We keep repeating it. We keep repeating it until the director's voice goes away and that it's only a realistic scene. So that's why we repeat, to eventually hammer out the kinks from the director and have it be a fully accurate, natural scene that you can remember with your eyes closed without any reference or having to dig back into your memory. That's how you make something subconscious. That is subconscious. That's the whole point of it. I feel like, and I know for myself and when discussing with people, that it's just completely overlooked. And I want to say too, make sure that your inner speech, I'll say this again as the key point to what I'm saying, is that your inner speech, meaning your thoughts, I'm not talking about what I am saying as the actor, I'm talking about the thoughts of the actor. The thoughts of the actor should be aligned with what the actor is experiencing. So say for instance, my brother is talking to me and saying, dude, Joe, brother, how amazing was it that we just met Tom York backstage at the Radiohead concert? And then maybe at that moment when he says that to me, in my mind, I think to myself for a second, literally, so imagine this is still all imagined, and imagining I am thinking instead of speaking right now. Yeah, how did we get here, man? I won tickets. I know, we won the tickets. That's insane. Look at how we got here. So make sure your thoughts are aligned with what you would actually be thinking, opposed to it being, oh, let me now figure out what to think as well. Okay, I want to add this to the scene now. Okay, how do I forget now what I'm supposed to imagine. There should be no reference of imagining. There should be no reference of anything like that. It should all simply be directly present in the imaginal act. So it is actually in your best interest to begin to study your reality. Literally, that's what I did. Once I realized how manifesting worked, which was essentially a replication of the contents of our mind, I realized what I was experiencing was an actual replica. It was identical. So if I imagined things in third person point of view, like looking at me from a distance, I realized I started manifesting someone who looked like me receiving my manifestations, because that's exactly how it works. It's a replicator. It's a creator of the contents of a mind. It's like if you're taking a photograph of someone else looking at a sunset, the photograph doesn't develop with just the sunset from that person's point of view. No. The photo that you take will be still of a person looking at a sunset. So that's why I know I hammered it, and that's the same aspect that happens, that replicating factor with an inner thought. Okay? So, once you begin to repeat, right, you plan it out, you memorize, and you get centered, and then you imagine and direct it at first, but then make sure you keep repeating it until it is no longer directed. Once you do that, it is impressed. There is nothing you can do to unimpress it. It's the same thing as driving a car. No matter how many years go by, you hop back in a car, maybe for 1 second or a minute, you're a little off, but then you're a natural. You never forget it. There's nothing you can do. So it's literally, again, if you had just started driving, after 10 minutes, you never have to think about driving again. It's automatically instilled in your mind. But at the moment, think of it like this. If you never drive for more than 5 minutes, you will always remain in that state where you have to think about everything you're doing. Oh, this is the gas pedal, this is the blinker, this is the drive, this is park, this is a left, this is a right, there's a stop sign, I have to stop. If you never get past that point, you will never drive properly. Everything will get screwed up. but obviously, thank God that doesn't happen. The point is to fixate on one thing, repeat it over and over, and you'll never forget it. It becomes subconscious. It's the same practice as imagining, right? The same practice as manifesting. It goes subconscious and you create. So I think on that note, that's a great place to start. I'll make sure to stop. I will make sure that I go through and answer anything else quickly and effectively that people have donated against, and then we're going to wrap it up. Since you've been talking about affirmations a lot today, do you think subliminals work? I know they work, but they are at the bottom of the list of effectiveness. Okay? Now, if you follow along in your mind, which is not what subliminals are very quiet, they will have a minimal effect. The active use of your imagination is the key. Remember, your imagination is God, right? So what happens when you're listening to something? It's barely doing anything to the imagination. Your subconscious will be impressed, but not much and not often, and it will be very ambiguous, or nothing will happen. Let's see. Oh man, there's way more. Gosh, okay, I'm not going to stop here, guys, but I will ask you to stop donating. And I think I even missed a couple, and it doesn't, why isn't it showing me who all donated? Maybe if I do viewer activity or analytics or stream settings, analytics, views, viewer activity, stream health. Did anybody, oh Christ, excuse me. What I have in front of me is Solani donated, and Solani was affirming the end with a specific person. He visits my city and asks to meet me and told me he doesn't have feelings. We were broken up before, but he asked to meet. Was affirming to end the end with my specific person. He visits my city and asks to meet me. And you in your mind were probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. He told me he doesn't have feelings. We were broken up before, but he asked to meet. It really could have a lot to do with what you've imagined. Did you work on your beliefs? Did you simply imagine? Most people, it's a very frustrating, sensitive topic for me, but suffice it to say the overwhelming majority of people who teach manifesting only have one tool they use. And if they only have one tool, what's the saying? If you only have a hammer, the only thing you see are nails. You use the same technique on everything else, right? So, and that's just not the case, okay? When it comes to relationships, a key change that needs to be made are belief systems. If one is having problems in the past with relationships, if one is codependent, if one has jealousy issues, if one has fear, if one has abandonment issues, if the specific person leaves, if this is a continuous thing, if this has happened multiple times, the answer is not affirming the end. That is not the answer. Nor is it just imagining the end. The answer is working on fixing and modifying those beliefs that are causing all these problems to happen in the first place. And if they're never fixated, you will manifest what you want, but it will be destroyed again by your beliefs, which is what happened in this case. I'm assuming, though, from what you told me, you were very ambiguous about what you actually manifested, meaning you probably weren't as accurate with what you were saying in your affirmations as what you wanted, right? If you had used the affirmation, I'm married to this person, and that's all you did, that's it, point blank, period, there's a difference. But if it was something different, like we're together, or something that, or if it was too long and you only impressed one piece, whatever it was, this happened, okay? Yes, this could be a part of the bridge of incidents, but again, it's the proof. If this was that painful of a thing to have happened, even if it is the bridge of incidents, it's more proof that you have beliefs that need to be fixed. So in other words, the ultimate solution is to work on, again, I wish you were at the workshop yesterday, but the ultimate way to resolve this once and for all and permanently I mean that, and specifically and accurately and without question, is to use the right tool for the right job, which means work on the self-image, work on your assumptions of yourself, work on your assumptions of the world, work on your assumptions of relationships in general, work on your abandonment things. Now, this may seem like a tall order, and to an extent it is, but manifesting the changes of beliefs is not as difficult as it may seem. Certain psychologists or therapists often exclaim that the longer something has been there, the harder it is to remove. But that has nothing to do with manifesting. That's a psychological topic, and again, we're talking about an entirely different principle altogether. So you figure out, and I talked about this before, but you speculate and figure out the possible beliefs that are creating these problems, right? Again, the answer is not just to visualize you married to this person. That will be of zero effect, especially given, I would say in the overwhelming majority of cases, 95% of cases, when a person has issues manifesting a specific person, it's because they have relationship issues, period. They've had them in the past with multiple parties, or even just one party. And with that, probably 75% of those individuals had parents who had issues, family issues, marital issues, things of that nature. So these are blueprints passed down through the subconscious that, unless corrected, will continue over and over, and you will also then pass them down to your children. Not only that, you'll never get the ultimate outcome you desire until you fix the thing preventing you from getting it in the first place. So that includes beliefs, that includes assumptions, that includes expectations, that includes your thoughts, that includes revision, a lot of different things. You could just do a simple search on my channel for assumptions, self-concept, self-image, beliefs, expectations, automatic manifesting. These are certain topics that have all different content related to the way that your reality is shaped, or why things go wrong when you're imagining the right thing. I hope that makes sense. Why do I see purple when I close my eyes and when I'm relaxing? I think that everyone may seem something slightly different. I oftentimes would see random colors too, like a swirly mix of colors, golden, whatever. I can't tell you exactly. I really can't tell you what it is, to be honest with you. I mean, I have my own speculations, but I have no proof behind it. I think it has to do with awareness. I'll tell you this. This is outlandish, but this is 100% accurate and true, tested, real. There's a book that I read. Well, you may have even heard of it. It's called remote viewing, which is the essential idea that you can see things in other places. Okay? So when I heard of this, obviously I thought it was nonsense because it didn't make sense to me. But the more I began to receive revelation about who I really am and what God is and who God is, and that all is within us, that there's no external world, all of that stuff, the more I realized that remote viewing was almost 100% true, right? And especially given that I knew I could manifest anything. So remote viewing is the concept of reality is that you are God, I am God, but not only that, this entire reality is God, and that this is all happening within God, as if God is like an ocean of particles, and then this is all the formulation of those particles together, which honestly is true. This is all particles, and it's all made up of the same substance. Scientists have yet to catch on because it's not described properly through the translations of the Bible, but literally, that's what this all is. It's an ocean of particles and energy, all this. It may seem solid, but it's not. Anyway, so remote viewing is actually the ability, since you are God, and this is all one medium, as if it's a body of water. If you electrify one piece of the water, the whole thing gets electrified elsewhere. Awareness is a medium that you also can view aspects too that's not near you, because you're in the medium and you are the medium. You're made up of the medium and you have the power to create and mold the medium, right? Manifesting. So you can ultimately view places where you are not, places that you've never heard of. And it's super easy. All you have to literally do is close your eyes and in your internal knowing, know what your objective is. I see my Father's house. That was one of the first ones I did. It was insanity. It was insane. It was, when I said that, there was no effort on my behalf whatsoever. It's like the command had taken on a form of its own, and particles moved in my mind. This is awake, obviously, but just having my eyes closed, and completely formed an overview of my Father's house from a downward angle like this. And it was absolutely to a T. And just keep in mind here, all I did was say in my mind, like, I see my Father's house. I did not use my imagination as you would to create something, right? There's like an effort and a control that you have to take with your mind in order to do that. A lot of times, substantial. This was something that was not instant, but after a few seconds, the particles started to come and then boom, snapped into this exact image. So anyway, the point is, when you see things in your awareness, I don't know what it is. It could just be your awareness itself. It could be looking at something random. No clue. But this is real. You could put it to the test. Absolutely real. All right, let's wrap this up. I heard you call me on the phone and congratulate me that my control issues from the past ended and it felt so real. Is this really a good sign for my subconscious mind? Thank you. Absolutely, as long as you're specific. Heard you call me on the phone and congratulate me that my control issues from the past ended and it felt so real. So that would absolutely be one statement that you could use. I would couple it in a different session with another statement that is even more specific to a different degree. Like, describing it just a little bit more accurately so there's no confusion what the control issue is, right? What you're controlling about, what you used to be controlling with, whom with, whatever it is. So, but otherwise that is actually great, because in my mind there aren't many things that control issues could mean besides ones that you would be aware of that they mean in the first place. So, oh my gosh. Okay, no one else donate, okay? Not for now, maybe next time, okay? For people with no friends or loners, who can we hear or talk to in our imaginal act, scene, implying we received what we wanted? We keep changing the person. Pick someone such as someone that, even if it's someone you used to trust, that you used to know that you're close to, right? Another thing you could do is, you could use me as your imaginal act. You could say, describe to me what you did, and I could congratulate you as I would in real life. In fact, if you really did get what you wanted to get, you would probably be excited. You could, say you were in a workshop with me or something. And then you message it there. Or sometimes in the Q&A that I hold on Zoom, people can also interject and actually speak. So imagine it there. Or imagine a coaching call between us where you're saying it there and me confirming or congratulating you. Or choose someone that you used to talk to. There's so many different, but choose one that really the point is, choose one that wouldn't lie to you. Or choose one, what about even someone who's not around anymore, It doesn't have to be, choose one and stick to this, and just stick to it. Thank you for the donations, everyone. Y'all are so cool. Can I manifest my high school crush even though she has a boyfriend and moved in with him and moved to another state? Yes. If you really want to do that, yes, you can do that. It's not unheard of. People do that who aren't manifesting. It's so much easier to do it with manifesting. Constraints, situations, logical conclusions make no difference to manifesting. All of those things are manifested anyway. Even this person being together with another person is manifested. So why don't you just manifest in a way that you are deliberately attempting to? There's nothing at all strange or impossible sounding about that. If you were asking me, is it possible to grow a third arm, I would have trouble believing that. Is it still possible? Yes, it's probably not even unheard of. I'm assuming a radioactive spill caused someone to grow a third arm once anyway. The point is if it is ever possible to happen at all, it is possible and even more simple and easy with manifesting. Okay. Lisa, it actually disappeared if you had given me a question. So what you do, just type it in and I'll look through the chat right now to see if I find it, okay? I'm so sorry. If I missed anyone's other question, just let me know. I didn't mean to, I promise. Lisa, where are you at, Lisa? You may have already even done it. Joseph, I donated. Joseph, you skipped mine. I didn't skip any, by the way. They disappeared off the screen, entirely gone. I can't even scroll up, and there's no way for me to see it. Just to let you know, there's no log, which is really stupid in my humble opinion. Very stupid. How do I switch? I can't. That's lame. So let's keep going. I'm control F'ing, meaning command F to try to, unless I didn't get, oh yeah, no, I didn't get it. I just didn't get it at all. Just do me a favor and send it to me. No problem. Everyone who missed it, what happens is the chat that I have in my corner only shows me the past 100 messages, right? And the donations disappear in comparison to how much was donated. Again, really stupid concept in my humble opinion. There should be a list of donators, don't you think? It all disappears. So anyone who I missed, it's because YouTube is not the smartest platform out there, right? I asked, what do I have to do if I've manifested my specific person 5 times? And how can I remove third parties for once and for all? If you've manifested your specific person 5 times, then that is not the answer. You are manifesting the wrong thing. I would also take it as a great motivation that I'm capable of creating. Obviously, you're capable of manifesting. Obviously, you're capable of manifesting a specific person. This is priceless, knowing your ability. Priceless. But the problem, I actually already gave this exact answer, so I'll just reiterate it so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you manifest something and it evaporates, or it breaks, or you get it temporarily and it goes, or you don't get it at all, yet you can manifest other things, it's because you have beliefs in the way. It's like the poor person who manifests winning the lottery. They get it, but then they find themselves broke again. I've seen that so many times. I've heard of that story countless times. Haven't you? It's because their self-image is contrary to the imaginal act. Entirely. The fact that they are already impoverished and poor is the fact, say they never yet won the lottery. Say right at that moment before they won the lottery, they're poor. They're very likely using important money on things that are very irresponsible, like gambling, winning the lottery, probably spending it on things they shouldn't be spending it on, right? So, just an example. That's why, I mean, literally, if a person is in that type of situation, there is a reason. Now, there's obviously a difference between maybe a one-off event that wiped someone out of money or something versus someone who has had a lifelong problem with money. Okay? So that person who's had a lifelong problem of money, they suddenly learn about manifesting. They go online, they watch a YouTuber, and the YouTuber is like, if you want to manifest, stop being poor, I'll tell you exactly how to manifest winning the lottery. It's the answer to your problems, right? So they tell you, all you have to do is visualize. That's it. You visualize, you win the lottery, right? But then the person, we'll not say you, we'll say the person watches the video, listens to this YouTuber, and then does exactly what this YouTuber says. They say all you need to do is imagine, just visualize winning the lottery, and that's it. Boom, they do it, they win the lottery. And in 18 months, they're flat broke again. This is a story I've heard dozens of times, for real. It's the same thing with a specific person. It's the same thing with health and weight loss and weight gain. It's the same thing with anything at all, right? It's because those beliefs where it's almost like they were covered up, right? Instead of actually solving the problem, they choose something that they think is the solution to the problem, right? They go a different path and make up their own conclusion as to what they believe the answer is, opposed to deliberately saying, I am good with money. I continuously receive money. I have an easy time building wealth. I always think from a wealth mindset. I always think like a person who has billions of dollars. I always such and such. Then if they imagined winning the lottery and won the lottery, they would literally, their entire life would transform. They would turn into a person who is rich, wealthy, maintain money, build wealth, think like a millionaire, think like a billionaire, and they wouldn't have to worry ever again. So in this case, with a person who manifests a specific person 5 separate times, there's a major malfunction. It's a common problem, but again, most of the time just stems from incorrect teaching. But ultimately what you have to do is identify the types of problems that are caused, or the types of problems that you're experiencing. Are you suddenly becoming jealous? Are you suddenly becoming insecure? Does the person suddenly change their mind? Does the person suddenly begin to pull themselves away? Does the person begin to do this and that and this and that and this and that? Is it just him? Has it happened with someone else? Are there similarities? Are there things having to do with people you're close to, but not necessarily only relationships? You find these patterns and you fix these patterns. So you identify the patterns by writing them down, in a sense, specifying what they are. People always change their mind. People in relationships always like me one day and then they don't. I'm always left heartbroken in relationships, right? Whatever you can say is happening, those are what you're going to take and flip them to the opposite. Write them down in the tense as if they're true, but in the opposite direction. You know, the men I'm always in a relationship with are consistent and long-lasting. They're always loyal. They always stay the same. I feel close with them. You know, we are overwhelmingly trusting with each other. We always have our best interest in heart. We are extremely loyal. We have the same values and ideals. In a general way, okay? Notice I'm not using someone's name. We want to say, every relationship I'm in is this. Right? Or like, for instance, if it's not just romantic relationships, you flip whatever the statement is. Say the thought was all people are liars, right? And so you have this boyfriend who starts to lie, which causes this whole chain of events, and then it ends, right? So would you just say every person I'm in a relationship with tells the truth? No. You would say, if the real thought in your mind was people aren't trustworthy, it's going to cause every relationship you have, whether you manifest it or not, to be untrustworthy, if that's what you assume about the world. The moment you switch it, though, to everyone in this world is trustworthy, Even though, okay, objectively you might not see that as true, that's why we imagine. We imagine it, it impresses the subconscious mind, and that will become the truth. And if that was the cause destroying your relationships, that will be removed entirely. You will never suffer that problem again, and your relationship will remain consistent. Now, that's not going to be the only problem. Trust you me, there's going to be many. Many and many and many. And it's no big deal, though. Really, you just brainstorm. You find the common denominators, you list them to an extent. You don't want to rate them out thoroughly with emotion. And your point isn't to experience them either. It's to do this objectively. To do it without feeling. It's to, meaning the part where you're analyzing, right? You're not, there's in no way, and you're not instructed to, and you're actually instructed to not feel these things or really get into them. You're just finding common traits. Find those, find the opposites, imagine those instead of imagining the specific person. They will begin to change. Your life will begin to change. Your beliefs will begin to change automatically. You won't believe it after you imagine it at that exact moment. It's just like anything else. A bridge of incidents has to unfold, even with beliefs. And you will eventually, things will happen, you'll make conclusions, and finally you will become a person who believes this thing. That problem will go away and you will become, or next time then you attempt to visualize that person, they will actually come and stay. So, that's it. Alright? That's it. I'm literally, just to keep you informed, I will not answer any more questions. Or if you want to give me a donation, totally up to you. But once I blast through, let's see, a couple things, that's going to be it. Let's see if I can find Maggie. Got specific person movement. Got specific person movement, and it keeps stopping for long periods. So it probably fits within the category of everything I've just described. But on top of it, what you would want to look at what is actually getting in the way, or asking yourself, when there's movement, is it because I am imagining the middle? Am I getting impatient and imagining what I'm not supposed to? If you have something in your mind blocking a manifestation, normally it is just dead stop, right? Full stop, nothing, zero. If things move to an extent, it's still possible, but less likely that it's started to move and then stopped, than it is to think that perhaps, like, yes, it would still be a belief in the way, but perhaps what likely would happen is your belief's in the way, but when you see movement, it's because you're thinking about them in other ways, and it's causing them to, like, do what you're thinking about, opposed to just the imaginal act. So it also becomes increasingly important to focus on your imaginal act and only the imaginal act. And then any other time you want to try to move your mind away from them at all, in general, for the most part, at least fantasizing ways. Anything else? All right. Alright, let's ban this person. Anyone see anyone else causing trouble? Type it in. Alright, sorry AMD. Apologize. AMD, apologize, they're your banned. I'll give you 30 seconds because of the delay. Okay, Latasha doesn't listen to what I said then. What are you talking about? Gosh, some people are harsh. In spirit, the issue that I find... Okay, he's good. No worries. The issue that I find with the meetups in San Diego is simply a location, right? A location that's safe and secure. I have had a very strange stalker experience once where someone flew across the country and tried to find my location without me knowing about it at all. And I only found out after because they informed someone randomly because there's obviously something, a little bit strange going on there. And then that person informed me. So I'm not too worried about that. But nevertheless, I think it would just be a common practice and something that is normal to have a place to go to that is going to make sense, that people can hang out in, that won't cause any issues, where we can speak and hear each other. That's the only thing that I found is perhaps having an issue. So. So would you consider not engaging with the unpreferred specific person until the preferred version showed up? I think a better way to describe it would be when you're interacting with the person, if you so choose to do so, you have to separate and compartmentalize your imaginal act from reality. So in other words, when you talk to them, although inside, yes, you have this desire for them and all of this stuff, I save that for a later time, stuff it away for a little while, and either until I get home or when I'm about to imagine. And when I'm interacting with them, I'm just interacting them like normal, complete normal, right? I'm not pretending that we're married and they don't even know it, right? When you start to live that way and pretend all the time, you actually suffer greatly because every piece of your reality is opposite to what you're attempting to believe. The work done to imagine what you want, to manifest what you want, is during the process when you're actually closing your eyes and visualizing. It's not after the fact. In fact, it would actually hurt someone, as I just said, if you pretend. You're far more likely to react. Reactions cause impressions. Impressions cause replication. So you'll keep replicating that problem in your reactions and you'll spiral downward. So if you feel you cannot not react, then it may be a good idea to avoid interactions where you will react until you sort that out, meaning fix it, imagine it so that you're comfortable with yourself, that you have full belief in your ability, because then it won't matter what you see anyway. In my mind, when I perform an imaginal act, I know there's no question that event is going to come to pass. So if I encounter something that's contrary, it doesn't bother me at all. I'll face it like normal, as if I never imagined for anything in the first place, meaning I pretend as if I'm not even a manifestor when I'm interacting with them, like I'm present, like I'm just a human. But then, and that helps me, because later, I already know in the back of my mind, I've performed the action. It's like I've already deposited the check in the bank, and I know it's just a matter of 3 days before it comes. I don't have it now, but I know it's as good as had because I've done it before. I've cashed a check before. I know what to expect, and I know that in the end I get it. So it's up to you. Alright guys, we're wrapping this up. Let me think if there's one more question I feel like answering. Everyone everyone just blast your questions, and I want to find something myself personally that I feel like answering. Let's see, and I'll think of things as well. Top of my head. AMD, there was no need to donate. I caught that. I mean, at the end, I understand. So there's no need. You're perfectly fine. Don't worry. No bad blood. I promise you. You know, if someone is talking that way, if someone's causing problems, spam me and tell everyone else to just spam me and tell me what's going on. Like, keep typing at Joseph Alai, there's a problem, you know, whatever. I'll take care of it, you know, no worries. Don't let anyone bring you down. Zero. Right? Everyone is you pushed out anyway. The best course of action is to just imagine that the problem has been solved. Imagine you're laughing. Imagine you're happy. You know? Everyone keep asking questions. Come on, everyone. I'm going to keep going through and finding one that I want to spend the last couple minutes answering. Keep going. Hey guys, I want to fill you guys in as well. For those of you who are manifesting as a continuous aspect of life, who have desires, multiple desires that are willing to persist and continue in trial and error until you complete it, manifest it rather. For those of you who are willing to do whatever it takes to get what you want, and for those of you also who have found your way here in comparison after you've gone through the process of realizing that this doesn't work and that doesn't work, right? That was my process, right? All the mainstream teachers, all the books, and then ultimately realizing what works and what doesn't. So for those people who are serious about manifesting, those people who are going to be continuing on their process, for those people who have found themselves here and know this is the path, the true way, after already experimenting on those other ways and finding what I found. I don't normally talk about this, but I think based on the questions that you guys are asking, my workshops go into specific strategic explanations through independent studies, examinations of thousands of people who have tested the manifestations or the techniques that I've described, and we have exact ways that they work. My workshops are based on that in a structured way. They're slideshows, topic by topic, and there are so many topics, right? So many topics. So they're live. It's me communicating them, explaining them, answering Q&As. And it happens once a month. We just had one yesterday, which was absolutely amazing. It was on the self-image and manifesting your desires, describing how to prove that you are God. Prove, not believe, not think, not hope, not pretend, but prove that you are God. And then also how to use that to manifest your desires. So anyway, we do that once a month. One was yesterday. I have one upcoming next month. But then 99% of these messages that have been written, I have videos of worth hours worth talking about, like, one of these questions. I have a video talking directly about that for 2 hours. Another one of these questions, answered in a video, 2 hours, right? Workshops that have been happening for years now. So there's the regular one, which the regular membership monthly, which is the you get a Q&A, you get a workshop, and you have the VIP chat, which is a Discord live chat server. I have that type of membership, and then I also have the All Access Inner Circle 6 month, which gives you the unlocked access to every single recording, basically my life's work. Picture 12 years, every single day for 12 years, hours each day, 3, 6, 8 hours, 10 hours sometimes, obsessively studying, experimenting, and reading every day, over and over. Days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, turn into a decade, turn into 12 years. That all systematic, custom, independent studies and experiments on manifesting anything. That's what the VIP channel is. It's for the VIP program. It's for people as a community to come together and master and maintain and obtain their desires. I recommend that for the select few of you who are just really gung-ho, who are looking for that thing, who have tried a lot of things, who are willing to do whatever it takes. I highly suggest that. Now, it's not for everyone, as I said. It's for people who really fit that criteria. They are willing to do whatever it takes. They have already tried and racked their brain listening to all these other people and have stumbled upon my channel at the end of that, and who have found that this is legitimate. So I just want to throw that out there. It's just called the Joseph Alai VIP program. You can find that at josephali.com/VIP or vip.josephali.com. It's just a heads up. It just reminded me, because of these questions are almost identical to the ones that I make entire workshops on, right? So anyway, I'm going to go through, and now I'm going to look. So I work on my concept of limiting beliefs. So give me a second just to look through, okay? On and you in there. I'm just looking. I'm just looking. Joseph, are the signs before your wish is manifested? Does your manifest move follow the same script, or can you change it up? Alright, let me get this one out of the way. Obviously, this person is freaking out and wants the answer. Does your imaginal act movie always have to be the same script, or can you change it up? During that one sitting, I recommend you memorize it to do the same one. But you can imagine as many scenes as you want after the same end. Meaning, if the end is that you want to be married to this person, you can manifest 1,000 different experiences. Imagine being on vacation with them, celebrating a 1-year anniversary. Imagine out to dinner with them and someone complimenting about how you guys are just a beautiful husband and wife. Being with them and imagining that you're with your children, right? Like all this stuff. So anything that you want, but during that sitting of imagining, that one specific sitting, you are to imagine and repeat the same scene over and over, okay? Anyway, superpowers, others manifest extreme physical changes. Superpowers, business. All right, I'm going to do business success because it does apply for many different things. And the question is, from Zoom social media, how can I manifest business success? There are. This is a project. It's a project versus a single imaginal act. The project goes as follows. You need to target what you want, business success. You need to explain what that means to you, right? So in other words, why? Why business success? Because I want to be able to go on vacation, because I want to accomplish that goal, because I feel like that's what I was born to do, because I want to not have to worry about money, because I want to expand and be famous, because you figure out what you want to do with that. So you write down your desire, Most times we write down a desire, they're on point, but also a lot of times they're not. We try to think, oh, that must be what I want because I want to be debt free. You don't want a business, you want to be debt free, so you're imagining the wrong thing and your effects will not be as you desire. That's why I say that. So you know that, and then what you would do is really you want to make it multifaceted, okay? You want to hit beliefs to make sure that since your beliefs are executing on your behalf 24/7, they are what makes your world consistent. Your beliefs must change for you to continuously maintain a manifestation. Meaning, if you don't, it might alter and switch and get destroyed. So, beliefs, meaning everything always works out for me. I always find everything I do is successful. I always have the best business ideas. I always am offered and accept amazing opportunities to bring me to the next level. Anything that you feel also, or like money is easy to get, people don't have to work hard to get money. It's easy to receive loads of money. It's easy to keep money. I automatically make decisions to grow my business and scale my business properly, right? So you create these things that you feel, if they were true, would cause a huge shift in your life and your business. That is beliefs. Using any technique you want, you would implement those. So whether that means visualizing conversations, which is normally the most effective way to manifest general statements, right? Now notice I didn't say specific, like my business, this specific social media business, I get customers all day long. Or even like, I got 5 clients, I made $1,000 this week. Like, you want to at first completely move those to the side because those are not the answer. Those are things that will come and go and not stick, right? And sometimes they'll just collapse under you. So you create generalized statements. I always make this much a week. I always, in general, right? In general, not with a business, okay? Really clear. This is with anything, by the way. So now you have a series of, and if you think about what's going wrong, right? Like, man, I never finish anything. I always seem to get one client and then everything stops. I always get the hard clients. Whatever. So those also you want to find the opposite of. So you have a really thorough list of, these negative things, then find the opposite of them. You have an even more thorough list. Sometimes you have to create 5 to negate just one because you can't find a direct opposite. Out of those, if you wrote them down handwritten on a piece of paper or a journal, if you wrote those down carefully and truly, then even with those that you have just written down, your subconscious will be impressed. Meaning your reality will change drastically. A lot of times that's all you need to do to get it. However, that's not where I stop because that's not sufficient for me. From that point, I will define a scene with certain characteristics that would prove what I wanted. No more, no less. So in the case of myself, before this started, all I had done was imagine for various different specific things. I imagined I was a web designer for like my own business. I imagined then I was a software engineer just for my own business. I imagined that I was a social media marketer. I imagined I was an ad person. I imagined a lot of things. What would happen is many of these would come to fruition for the shortest time you could ever imagine. Like one person would reach out and then either they would back out last second or it would happen and it would get all screwed up. The project would, or the person would micromanage. It was a nightmare. And then it would crash and burn and I was exhausted. And this happened for years because I've always wanted a business since I was 10 years old. Ultimately, I imagined, this is what I imagined. I know exactly what to imagine to manifest having a successful business. That's what I wrote down. I wrote that down, but in a different tense. I knew exactly what to imagine to manifest my business. And And then a couple other ways too. I imagined the perfect scene that manifested my business or my business success, whatever. What ended up happening was I had a conversation with a friend that I trusted in real life. We were talking about random things completely off topic of business, right? She knew me well though. She knew what I wanted. But anyway, we were just talking about whatever it was. Random. I think it was, whatever it was, just something entirely opposite. Just suffice it to say that stands out for a reason to me, and I'll explain why. Suddenly, mid-conversation, she switches gears, looks straight at me, and says, "What are you imagining for your business? Why are you imagining starting a business, but you're still imagining that the company you're working for treats you better? Why are you fixating on what you don't want? Why aren't you just imagining what you want? You want to be free. You want to be this. You want to do this." She goes, "You want to be free. You want to be able to travel. You want to," and a couple other things she said. And she said, "Imagine that." And then I was like, oh my God. So from there, it took me, not long. Even at that moment, I just went for a few seconds, closed my eyes, then I imagined I was on vacation, looking out the window to a tropical location. Someone was next to me. I had my laptop, right? I closed it, and I said, "It's Tuesday." I think it was that. It says, "It's Tuesday. I'm so grateful it's Tuesday and I'm already done working." So all of that together, even though I didn't choose the specific thing, right? I didn't say engineer, I didn't say this, I didn't say that. It just was a specific idea that I made enough money to travel, enough money to work minimally, that I worked and traveled, that I only worked two days a week. Basically meaning that I'm remote. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it. And I'm able to be with a friend. It was within a matter of, my God, a week? 2 weeks? That Lila from Nevolution reached out to me out of the blue. Literally. Never met her, never spoke to her. I didn't even know who she was when her name messaged me. It was a name that on Facebook was in a different language. And it said, "Hi, I forget the whole statement, but it was something to the effect of, I really like your stuff. Can I please read it on my channel?" And I thought to myself, who is this? That's weird. And I said, I made the decision. I was like, that's fine. You can read it. As long as you don't make any indication that I am going to make a YouTube channel. I don't want to do that at all. So she goes, "No problem." And then she sent me a link of her videos, and I clicked on it, and I was like, oh my God, I know her. So I felt starstruck, right? When I felt starstruck, she recorded it, she published it, and during the video, it said, "Keep an eye out for Joseph Alai's upcoming YouTube channel," right? She narrated my lecture that I wrote. I don't know if she misread what I wrote about I don't want to start a YouTube channel. I didn't say don't mention I don't want it. I said, I don't want to start a YouTube channel. So make sure, that's it. I'm not doing that. I don't know if she misread that and said, oh, he wants to start a YouTube channel. Let me say to look out for it. Or if she just in her own mind was like, disregarded it or said, screw that, he needs to do this. Because what followed was insane. I did it, people went crazy for it, and then within 2 days I recorded something, made a YouTube channel. I had thousands of subscribers within a matter of a day or two, and ever since my life radically changed. This was 2 weeks after Lila recorded my blog post. It changed my life rapidly. My life has never been the same. And then I was in Thailand 2 years ago now, and I remember I was doing a workshop there. So, and I was there with a friend. A friend met me there. She lived close by to Thailand, so we ended up linking up. So I do my workshop. I close it. She's next to me. I'm sitting outside on a deck in Thailand looking at like this lush green. There's monkeys and stuff. And I said, you know, like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it's so awesome. I'm already done working. Let's go. And at that moment, that's when it hit me. That was the scene that I had imagined shortly before, right? I mean, I imagined the scene probably, 6 months before that. The business manifested within 2 weeks. And then 6 months later, that scene that I had imagined exactly, the rest of it had fulfilled. So choose what you want. Specify the criteria. Don't imagine what you necessarily don't want, right? If you know you want an objective like to have a business and to be able to travel and remote and this and that, imagine that. If you don't really know exactly what you want to do, how you want to do that, then don't include it. In fact, including it can only hurt in a lot of situations. Just like me, I imagined doing all these things I didn't really care about. And I got what I got as a result of that, which was a lot of pain. I learned a lot, though. Interestingly enough, however, when this business started, everything that I was good at and loved I had to utilize in this business. Software engineer, marketing, reading, manifesting, obviously number one out of everything, right? I had no idea ever that manifesting would be it, right? That was just an obsession I had had for, nearly a decade. At that point, and I was obsessed, and I didn't know anyone at all except for one person in my whole life who I had just met a couple months prior, that I even ever spoke to anyone about manifesting. Someone made me an admin of their channel, I posted that blog, and then all of a sudden, man, boom, it just took off, and that was it. So how do you start a successful business? This is the same thing with manifesting anything. Imagine, first of all, imagining things that you feel might be the solution. Like, I want to start a business, so I'm going to imagine creating websites and making money that way. It's not necessarily the direct answer. The direct answer to having a business is manifesting having a business. But even sometimes that's not really the answer. What did I really want? I wanted to, yes, starting a business, I love it, but I wanted to code, I wanted to travel, I wanted to not have a boss, I wanted to all these things. That was really why I wanted to have a business. So ask yourself why, and then from those criteria, develop or conjure your scene. At the same time, right, that's what now you're going to be imagining. But at the same time, also facilitate you being good at whatever you're about to do. Start manifesting. I'm great at ideas. I'm great at completing things. I'm great at seeing things through. I'm great at saving money. I'm great at managing businesses. I'm great at businesses. I'm great at technology. Whatever you want to do, that's a generalized statement. The decisions that I make are always great. I always logically make the best decisions for money, to make money, whatever it is. And even things that you feel you're poor at, increase them to be better. That is what changed everyththing. From going to manifest for years and years of trying to manifest a business, to one day imagining I know exactly what to imagine to get what I want. Then someone telling me what to do, what to imagine, what not to imagine, and then me creating that scene and manifesting it. 2 weeks. So on that note, you guys are awesome. I'm gonna wrap it up. My throat is starting to do things that are strange, meaning it's just starting to get sore and dry. So whatever you want, imagine it, right? Imagine what you want. Don't imagine what people tell you to imagine. Don't imagine what you think you should. Like, oh man, like this would be right only if I did this, and this would be wrong if I did this morally. Just imagine what you want. Imagine what you want. Ask yourself why. If you don't feel resonated with that, ask yourself why again for the answer you just got. And if that doesn't feel right, ask yourself why again for that answer. And over. Thank you all. You guys are so great. And so many people joined here. My goodness. I think at the peak there was nearly 500 people. So thank you all for being here. You guys are great. Share the channel. Like this video. Thank you all for your donations. I hope I gave you some information that was helpful. I enjoyed this so much. This changed everything for me because I didn't know I could do live streams that wouldn't lag. Yes, we had that one problem, but I fixed it almost instantly, right? So I am overwhelmed with joy. That means I can do live streams again. I haven't done a live stream in over 2 years, just about, except for my workshops. So again, you guys are great. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. You guys are awesome. Now the max was 411, I believe, or 450 or something, but it was at least 411. Thank you guys. Love you all. Keep manifesting. Don't forget to manifest. Don't forget to organize your manifestations and then manifest. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And by the way, check out the VIP if interested in a way that keeps you accountable, right? Accountability is key. Later. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, stay tuned for more.